Welcome to the Jello Jiggling podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ward, and there's only really one thing to say after that game. 7 straight wins. This Lakers team is red hot right now. They're arguably the hottest team in the league outside of Cleveland, who's won 10 straight. Um, don't jump to conclusions with this. This is the New Orleans Pelicans, who have been one of the worst teams in the league this season, mostly due to injuries. So it was basically the Lakers versus Zion, and Zion, I think, went off for like 37 points. But it didn't matter. The Lakers just had their foot on their neck, and they didn't let up. They didn't have Rui or Austin Reeves again. But the great thing about this was I thought it was a typical trap game kind of scenario. They go into this, they would drop the ball, they'd get comfortable, they're at home. This team, we will beat these guys easy. That kind of mentality, which is kind of it's kind of bit them in the ass a few times this season. But they didn't. They didn't let up. Luka was insane in the beginning. He played well. He had what 30 points, 15 assists, 8 rebounds. He was a plus 37, which I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I'm not a big plus minus guy. I kind of think it's kind of a bogus stat, but when it does stick out in the stat sheet, it's kind of like, whoa, like crazy. But and then I think Jordan Goodwin also was like plus 30. All the other guys were like single digits, but yeah, the way that this team is just rallying around Luka and JJ, and how LeBron is like totally accepted this kind of role behind Luka, being the second guy rather than the guy at the focal point. It's just, it has all the makings of a championship caliber team. And I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, I've been a total pessimist for probably ever since the 2020 season. I've just been like, okay, well, these guys are good, but they always seem to shoot themselves in the foot. And that's changed now. That's a different. Oh, well, okay. So the Raiders just signed Max Crosby. I just got the press release for that. That's awesome. I'm a big Raiders fan, by the way. Long-suffering Raiders fan, but I hang in there. But I just been totally impressed. This team is just gelling. I mean, it totally reminds me of when they got Pau Gasol back in what was that, 2008, I believe. Same time in the season, trade deadline, February, and then it just was as if Pau and Kobe had been playing together for a decade, right? They just clicked. They were just on the same page, and they were just killing teams in the West, and they made it all the way. I mean, they lost that year, but still, it set up a crazy future because they lost that year, and then they won back-to-back titles, and it's history now, right? It's Lakers history, and capped off, Kobe's legacy and created one for Pau. It's just the way it seemed kind of seamless with Luka. It was rough in the beginning because understandably so. He hadn't played since Christmas. He's going to be rusty. Especially a guy that leans on 3-point shooting. You're not going to be, strong right out the gate. You're just not. And he clearly wasn't. And now he's coming around. He's still struggling with the shot a little bit, but he does so much, so many other things on the floor that help his team win games, that he can have a bad shooting night and it's fine. He had 15 assists, like nothing. And he's a sneaky good rebounder. For some reason, he's always in the right spot. Kind of reminds me of Jason Kidd a little bit. Jason Kidd was always in the right spot when it came to rebounding. That's why he had so many triple doubles, and he wasn't very big. I mean, Luka's bigger than J Kidd, but it's just wild. And then LeBron had a quiet 34, which is kind of crazy. And then he surpassed 50,000 points, which is wild too. That became a big talking point in the locker room. But it's kind of funny. That got overshadowed quickly just by how good this team is and where they're going, and the fact that being second in the West. I know it's going to be neck and neck with them and Denver the rest of the way, especially when they're going to play Denver, I think 3 more times in the next month or so, next 4 weeks or so. Once in Denver and twice in LA. which will be telling, very telling. I think you know what? There's a telling trip coming up, um, or just stretch of games. There's a road trip. They play New York next. I believe it's tomorrow, and then Boston on Saturday. That's going to be a big one in Boston. Uh, it's it's kind of that perfect recipe of a iconic matchup. Like with Boston's, Boston, they're firing all cylinders, defending champs. They're gearing up for the playoffs. They've kind of been, just kind of they've been winning games quietly. I think Cleveland's kind of stolen the spotlight in the East, which I think they kind of like. You take the spotlight off, not as much pressure, blah blah blah. And then there's that documentary from The Ringer, or Bill Simmons and HBO and stuff about the Celtics, which is I'm sure going to ramp things up a little bit. I just watched the first episode the other day. It's pretty good. I'm obviously not a Celtics guy, but I respect the history that they have, and you gotta respect rivals, right? You gotta, especially one as accomplished as that, and know the history and know why there's tension between the two teams and why it's such a heated and rivalry and arguably the best rivalry in sports. Um, well, of course, it's Max Crosby stuff had to happen right now. But yeah, I super impressed. JJ is blowing me away. I hope JJ. He's not going to win Coach of the Year, but I hope he does get some serious votes and consideration when in the end, just enough to show like, hey, look, we acknowledge that you have far exceeded the expectations that were given you in such a pressure-filled situation in which most people would falter and fall apart. I was anticipating him falling apart around now, if not earlier, because the pressure is a lot in LA. And coaches, I think, are the most. How would you say this? They're just not as they're always the fall guy for one, and they're not valued as much as they used to be. Right? There's only a few coaches in the league that are like somewhat untouchable, right? You got like Steve Kerr in Golden State, you got Spoelstra in Miami, you got Popovich, even though Popovich could be, he may have coached his last game because of, the health issue and stuff, which sucks. But those guys, they're staples. It's like Phil Jackson when he was in the league. He's not going anywhere. He was never going anywhere. He's JJ. It's just a lot of these guys get fired after 2 years. They just do. I mean, look at Vogel. He won a championship. He was fired like 2 years later. Ham, goes to West Finals. He's fired a year later. It's a tough job. I would never want to be a coach, and ever. There's too much pressure. There's too much stress. There's the task at hand is kind of impossible, right? Even if they do win a title, I don't. It's just you got to be a little nuts or like a sicko, like JJ says, to do it, and he's done it, and he's been incredibly impressive. And the real test will be in the playoffs, because everything ramps up in the playoffs. Everybody's going 100, and everybody's trying to expose your flaws, which they've seen all season long, right? And you get to play the same team consecutively, so you get to see firsthand, hey, look, this is working, that's working. There's no like back-to-back, the stars resting over here, stars resting over here. And it's like, no, everybody's playing. If they're healthy, they're playing. Or even if they're banged up a little bit, they're still playing. It's just a different game. Totally. That's why I love the playoffs. I love the playoffs in baseball. I love the playoffs in the NFL, NBA. It's just it's a different game. There's real stakes, right? And that's when it's going to get interesting. But this stretch coming up, it's New York, at Boston, at Brooklyn, which is whatever, but it could be a trap game, at Milwaukee, at Denver. And that Milwaukee-Denver is a back-to-back. And then I only wrote down that much, but they play that 2-game set back-to-back, Milwaukee-Denver in LA, again, within like a week. I'm like, and then there's another back-to-back scenario. I think it's like San Antonio against somebody. And I'm like, dude, the NBA really screwed the Lakers coming into this final stretch of the season. That's just a brutal schedule. Especially for a team like this, like where you want to ride a momentum. You want things to continue on and have that confidence going into the postseason, which is right around the corner, man. I don't think we realize how close it is. It's going to come up quick. And the way it's looking is like we're finally not going to be in the play-in, at least, outside of a crazy scenario happening. And just battling back and forth for the second. And they're never going to reach OKC. I think that's kind of OKC's got that locked up. But that's fine. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I think 2 is just far exceeds any kind of expectations the Lakers ever had coming into this season. But I'm stoked. Don't Connect is another one. He has stepped up in Rui and Reeves' absence. He had 13 last night, 8 boards. Oh, no, that's Vando. 13, 4 boards, 3 assists, and he went 5 for 9 from the floor. Pretty solid numbers, man. Vando was good too. 12 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, plus 27. Jesus. And then Jackson Hayes is another guy who I wanted to mention. I had a feeling watching Luka in the playoffs last year and how good he made Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively look, right? These guys probably wouldn't stand out on any other team. They're good players. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not good players, but with Luka in the mix and LeBron in the mix, just that combination of those two guys, it opens up everything for them. Oh, man. So my alarm for a meeting I got at RotoWire, but so I got like 5 minutes here. Yeah, I think he's going to stand to really benefit from this, and he balled out last night. He had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and went 8 for 8 from the floor. I mean, all he has to do is basically hang around the rim, and he's going to get the ball, right? His rebound's not great for a guy, that's 7-footer, but he's coming around. I think with more games like this, he's going to be a factor. Like and I'm sure he's got that added motivation of all season long. Oh, the Lakers need a big. The Lakers need a big. The Lakers are going to go after this guy in the summer. They tried to get Mark Williams, didn't work. He's got more motivation than ever to prove that he can do this. Just play this role. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything outside of that. And so far, he's done well. I've been impressed, and I think he's only going to get better. And now, if he went to another team, I think it's a totally different situation. But right now, he is in the ideal position to do something here, to be a strong part of this team and help this team win games consecutively and be a force in the playoffs. Now, they got concerns behind him, obviously, because Alex Lynn has not been much of anything. And I don't think he's won over the coaching staff at all, because I think he was in the game for like a couple minutes yesterday. And then there's Cam Reddish, who never even sees the floor now. He's another DMP last night, which is strange. It's like I wave the guy, go get another dude. You know what I mean? If you truly are like checked out on him, I felt like that's been the case for a couple months now with him, and why they tried to move him. See what else we got here. Shooting percentage for the team last night, 53.3%, impressive. 36.5 from deep, pretty good. They led by 27 points at one point, which is awesome. I mean, the turnovers are a concern. I think that's going to happen when you got guys who are handling the ball as much as LeBron and Luka do, and they're active passers. You know what I mean? Like Luka had 5, LeBron had 4. And that's kind of the norm for both of those guys now. Usually it's like LeBron's a little bit higher than that. But it obviously doesn't matter. If they're beating teams like this and like convincingly, then oh well, whatever. And then let's see. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. I keep waiting for the bottom to fall out of this. You know what I mean? Like, just all of a sudden things just aren't working, because I'm so used to that over the past couple of years. But I don't see that. I don't see it faltering unless, if they go into Boston and Boston just shows how far they are between, it being a good team and a great team. You know what I mean? Or being a playoff team to a contender. I mean, that's going to be a huge game. That'll be the biggest game in the season so far. I said that about Denver originally, and I think I was right at the time. And now it's Boston. So looking forward to that. That's the next game to circle on the schedule. I mean, New York's going to be interesting too, because they got some bigs in there. Mitchell Robinson's back. I don't know if Cat's playing. I think he's had an injury issue the last couple of games, so could be shaky. I'm sure we'll know more today about his status. But if those two are in there, That's going to be a problem for Hayes and just the front court in general, because they're not going to be able to keep those guys out of the paint, and they're going to be crashing the glass like crazy. But we'll see how that goes. But man, just super promising. It looks great. I haven't seen this much enthusiasm from fans for a long time, and it's really refreshing. Um, I'm having fun covering the team again. It's been rough last couple of years, but hey, it's turning around, and Boston is that game that you're going to want to watch, because it's going to be a statement game, and I think the Lakers know that. They're probably thinking about that right now. They're probably thinking past New York, which is probably not a good thing, but um, that's the game to watch. So check in for New York, and then Boston is going to be pure entertainment. Get your popcorn ready. But until then, guys, see you later.